Welcome to United Shades of Gray, Conversations of Race in America on WSGW. Now, here is your host, Kareem Bowen.
Oh, thank you for tuning in to another session of United Shades of Gray. This is Kareem Bowen, your host. I am so glad that you are here with us on today. We have a great show planned out for you. I have with me today the CEO, the head honcho, the grand poompa, the big guy, Gene Pickelman, with me here today from Tristar Trust Bank. Let me get that right. Gene, why don't you say hello to our audience?
Hello, everyone. Glad to be here. Thank you, Kareem.
And he is not a virgin to radio. He's been here a couple of times. He told me that before. So welcome. We appreciate you being here today. But we're going to get right into our show as we often do. And we start off with what's hot off the press. And so I want to just get in here and get right to it. There has been a lot that has been happening in this particular area. And today we're going to start off talking about what's going on with this gun violence that we're seeing in the nation. It is absolutely crazy. I don't know what's going on, but I don't know if, the country is just tired of being cooped up due to COVID. I don't know if someone took some wacky pills or what exactly they're putting in the water. But over the past week, we've had 11 different mass shootings that have taken place across the nation. And, we really got to begin to have a conversation about this. This most recent one in California, transit employee killed 9 coworkers before taking his own life on Wednesday. That is the latest in this epidemic, and it is really becoming a serious issue that we have to begin to talk about. And I think that this is a conversation I've told you guys a million times that I really enjoy my guns. I enjoy going to the gun range. I could not wait with my family, visiting family in Arizona, when we were out there shooting hand cannons and things of that nature. This is something that I really enjoy. It's been a part of my life growing up. We were in the backyard on the acreage, shooting, the shotguns and things. I grew up with guns. I love them. I enjoy them. But I do recognize that there is a more important conversation that must be had regarding the situation with guns. Rick, I don't know if you've been following this, and I have in the studio. Please forgive me. Stepping in for the Rob Father is my number 2 guy. He is Rick, and Rick Antonio is with us on today. He's not doing news today, but he's in there chilling with Kareem. How's it going, Rick?
Good. Just trying to stay, trying to stay warm. It's been toasty out, but then it decides to cool off.
Did you turn down the thermostat?
I just got the air conditioning put in, so
it has been crazy, but I really enjoyed this. So Rick, I know that you've been seeing what's going on. I know you report news. So what's your take on what we're seeing here, especially with the situation, 9 dead in California on this railway yard? And I don't know if anyone, if you I guess maybe you would have to have ridden either the sub or the train or something like that in California. I know in this particular area, I used to take those routes all of the time when I was out in the Bay Area. And it's very easy for something like this to take place. What was your thought when you heard this, Rick?
When I heard about it, I was surprised because it sounds very similar to I thought there was a FedEx shooting in Indiana a couple of months ago. So it sounds very similar. And the gun violence in itself, I mean, you can look at around here locally, just the number of shootings that have been taking place.
You know what? I'm glad you said that, because I often talk, and as I talk about the issues and the matters of our nation, and we're talking always conversations of race in America, I get asked, and when I was in here with Art Lewis, he had asked me this question, Kareem, I see the protest about what's happening with Black Lives Matter. They're upset with police brutality and the things that are taking place. But he says, do you get that angry when you see all of the violence that's taking place inside the village? And I use air quotes because there's an African adage that says it takes a village to raise a child. And so we're going to have a conversation about that, because I think it's an appropriate question to ask, because I'm just as outraged, and I'm actually doing some things in our community, working with community resources and individuals to really talk about the gun violence that's taking place. And this is not a pervasive, it's not the entire village, it's these young kids. And these young kids are now having access. This is why I think that we have to have a greater conversation. And I know we have handgun bans and things of that nature, but when we're looking at what's taking place and how we can easily kill 9 people before police are able to do anything, and I think the guy took his own life. There's a conversation that has to be had here. And so some of you NRA lovers and that are out there, I want you guys to tune in, lean into this conversation. I would love to have this conversation, invite you into the show, because I am a lover of rifles, guns, firearms, all of those things. I think that our Second Amendment right is something that I treasure. However, I do think that there is a need for us to begin to look at, is this particular freedom causing issues in terms of how we're allowing it to happen? So we need to take a look at some background checks and some other things and see if there's other things in the system that we can begin to do to make a change. So this is, I said 11 mass shooting. This is actually 12, excuse me. Next on the list today is an interesting day. If you guys remember back in January, I was sharing with you, I was actually on the show live taping when we were notified that there was an insurrection at the Capitol. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know if COVID had made, people crazy once again. And, we were going to now have a national war, Civil War #2. It was very uncertain and very scary. And looking at the images and the pictures that we're able to be seeing, I didn't know what was happening. I just knew that the tension in America has drawn to a level that is really beyond control. And so we need some people to really begin, Democrat, Republican, whatever you want to call it. I tell you all, I am a moderate conservative all day long. However, I do sense that there is a need for a greater conversation. We have to begin to look at the state of our country, the essence of our institutions, and what we're going to do about those things. And it's important for us to have a very strong conversation because this is getting out of control. But today, the Senate is poised to vote on this January 6th commission that is supposed to go in and to take a look to find out what's going on. However, it doesn't look like this is going to pass the Senate. So it's kind of interesting. I've never seen a situation to where we would have, I guess, one of the greatest attacks against our democracy since the Civil War. And we not want to know what's going on with that situation. But let's stay tuned. We'll see what happens. I think this one is dead in the water. I really am looking for Washington in some shape or form to begin to show me some signs of a bipartisanship and some movement towards working together. I don't know about you. I'm tired of these two parties fighting and going crazy and changing laws. I want a government that works for its people, that are going to do the things, be true to your word. If it's wrong in 2008, it's wrong in 2012. And this is both ways. And I don't think that either of us or any of us are serviced well when we can't get a real truth, when the truth is always subjective to whatever your opinion or your point of view is. And I'm not going to draw you into this because I don't try to draw people into politics. I don't even like to talk politics. But I do think that we need to begin to look at some of these things. So the idea is, oh my goodness, we're hoping that some type of reform happens. And I know the Capitol Police are pretty ticked off. They were making statements, Rick, that they felt as though that they were servants to our congressmen that are working there. That's not a good feeling for someone who is trying to protect and serve the individuals that really should be voting to make sure that they take care of them as well. So it'll be interesting to see how that happens. All right. The next thing is we are embarking upon a holiday weekend free of COVID. Well, COVID is still here. I take that back. Free of all of the restrictions of COVID. People are traveling again. They're saying that 6 times the number of people will be traveling this year as did last year. Rick, are you recovering from COVID fever?
Well, luckily, no. Oh, you mean the actual? you mean the thing?
Not that you have COVID fever, but yeah. Are you
the tiredness of having to wear the mask, have to tiptoe around this, that, and the other a bit, but at the same time, I'm also being cautious.
Okay.
My question for you: Are you going to be one of those millions of people traveling this weekend?
Not a chance. Not a chance. And I'm going to ask you too, Gina, but are you over these COVID restrictions? I know I'm really tired of them. I am suffering from mitigation fatigue. I'm ready to do something different. But when you live in the space that I've lived and you've seen so many lives impacted and like I was saying last week, like 60 leaders in one particular area that I operate in the religious world are no longer here. That all died during COVID. I had a cousin that died just before this January 6th insurrection. I just had another family member just die this past weekend. Another friend it's just been absolutely crazy. So I went ahead. I got vaccinated, fully vaccinated. I'm tired of the mitigation. However, I see that COVID is a real thing. And so I think that one of the greatest things in a war is that you respect your enemy. So I'm being cautious. I'm getting out. I'm doing things. But where are you at, Gene? Are you like ready? Are you going to be traveling this weekend at all?
No, I'm going to be babysitting a couple of grandchildren. And so we're going to be at home. And but if we were free, I'd be open to traveling.
Man, you have the best gig in the world this weekend.
Yeah, you bet.
but no, I think and that's where I'm at. So I'm not opposed to traveling. I'm still just kind of in my mind. I think it's the mental part of being free again. You know, you put a dog in a cage long enough, you can open the door to the cage and the dog's afraid to come out.
And so, I think that's part of what the problem with a lot of people being against masks, being against the vaccine, is being told what to do.
Yeah. Well, I don't trip about stuff like that. You know what I mean? No. There's certain things I'm gonna stand up for my rights. I'll protest in 5 seconds. You're not gonna take away my rights, But the fact of the matter with this, I'm an individual who believes in the common good of the nation as it relates to public health measures. And this is not a political stance. I've said this a million times. This is a public health situation, and we've all got to play our part to do what's best and moving forward. So if you get vaccinated, get vaccinated. If you're not going to get vaccinated, at least be smart. Wear a mask. Do what you can. This whole I'm going to be a rock star cowboy, I'm not doing anything. I've seen so many people get sick because of that, and they've changed their tune after. But hey, that's a part of that conversation. I want to thank you guys for that portion. We're going to get into the heart of what we're going to talk about on today. But I was just wondering if anybody had any cool plans. Rick, anything cool for this weekend?
Just go visit my mom and stepdad for I think it's actually his 60th.
Really,
this weekend, then before the holiday.
So. Are they in the area, or
I'd say up north a bit?
Okay, up north. Up north is not really going anywhere. I think once I go up north all the time, so no major travel plans. We're hitting the airwaves. It's going to be interesting to see what happens.
And everyone's got a different up north too. I'm sure someone from Detroit would say, "Oh, up here's up north."
Well, what's interesting is that, and this is something that's along that holiday travel plan. We're going to get to what we want to talk about today. But I saw this today. I was watching. I'm not sure if it was Fox News or whatever it was, but they had the CEO of Delta on. He won the aviation award or whatever it was, and navigating through the pandemic. And during that pandemic period of time, there was a lot of family members who had to travel. They were like so scared. But Delta was one of the only airlines that weren't filling the center seats, which I thought was a really cool thing to do. And they were saying, well, don't fly this weekend if you're expecting the center seats to be open, because they're flying 90% occupancy. And so, and they were talking about how high ticket prices are. They couldn't sell a plane ticket last year. And so now I guess we're going to pay for those profits that were lost on last year. So tickets from DC to Wisconsin or Minnesota were like $800. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I'm excited for more air travel to begin, some of the restrictions. I want us to continually pray for India. I have friends in India that have, we've been friends for 6-7 years, and India is really taking COVID really bad. A friend of mine, his father passed away just 2 days ago, and it is ravishing the nation. His entire family has it. Mass graves, they're really just burning bodies in the street, in ditches, and creating ditches and putting bodies in there. So prayers and our thoughts are with India as they continue to deal with this issue that the government just did not handle. And so I want to give our government, the last administration, I give them major kudos for coming up with this vaccination, this one for rolling out a plan. Great things can happen when we tend to work together. So I love to see this happen in our country. All right, so we're going to get to our conversation. We have been talking, for those of you who are out there, we've had this is week number 3 I started the first week and I was talking about the origins of systemic racism. There are a lot of people that don't really believe in systemic racism. I've had people in here that said we don't understand or believe systemic racism. So I took that first time to just really talk about how systemic racism has to exist, seeing that our nation was recovering from slavery and, the Constitution and the Emancipation Proclamation, all of those things being written in the time that they were, African Americans only being 3/5 human, systems that were already in place would have to have some type of bias toward people of color, POCs, once again, people of color in them. And so we're now talking about companies who are, decades later doing things to really try to bring business and education and policing and social justice reform to these different industries. And on last week, we had a great conversation with Mark Bassett. This week, I am blessed to have with us. And even though we're going to talk about Tristar Trust Bank, it's kind of a tongue twister, Tristar Trust Bank, and really what you guys do. So you guys are not the run-of-the-mill bank, but you guys are involved in banking, wealth planning, wealth management. One of the things that I think is most important to talk about, and we'll have a whole conversation one day, is talking about the growing wealth gap here, the wealth divide. But we're going to talk today about banking, finance, and some things that are happening with people who are leaders in this industry. My wonderful guest here, Gene Pickelman from Tristar Trust Bank. I got it right that time. And we're going to talk to him, and he's been doing something really cool. About 3 years ago, I think I was a part of a program that you guys were doing, conscious capitalism. And so I want to make sure that we have some conversation about that and what's going on. I want to start off with this, okay? On October 2020 of last year, JP Morgan Chase released this following press release. I'm just going to read it. They said that Thursday it will extend billions in loans to Black and Latino home buyers and small business owners in an expanded effort toward fixing what the bank calls systemic racism in the country's economic system. The New York Bank said it is committing $30 billion over the next 5 years towards programs that include earmarking for money for getting Black and Latino homes and families into home ownership, providing additional financing, all of these great things. Systemic racism is a tragic part of America's history, said their CEO, Jamie Dimon, in a statement. We can do more and do better to break down systems that have propagated racism and widespread economic equality. I wanted to throw that out there because this is one of our nation's largest banks that is throwing $30 billion to bring change, to bring equality, to bring opportunity to communities. When you hear this type of thing, and I'm not sure, I haven't even asked you about your understanding of systemic racism or your belief or non-belief, but there's been conversations that you've been a part of as it relates to systemic racism.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so in your understanding, as it relates to systems, what do you think is a remedy if there is racism in our systems? How do you think we need to begin to look at ways to remedy it? And I know that there's some ideas that you have, but looking at this type of thing, they're taking $30 billion and investing it in home opportunities. What are some other things you think industries and banking might be able to do to make a change in the situation?
Great question. I believe there is racism.
Okay.
I believe that there's been injustices that have happened. And we all know that many lives have been hurt. And so with that, the question you've asked me is, okay, so where do we go? And there's a number of ways in which I could really answer this question. And I'm speaking for Gene Pickelman, not so much Tristar Trust Bank.
That's great.
Okay. But as I look at the injustices and things of that nature, there's a lot of history that has gone on that I've never been part of, but I know it's been out there, and I know that it has affected a lot of people throughout the years. But at the end of the day, I believe that we can begin to eradicate racism by really forming new relationships with each other. That is me and you you and me getting together, talking about what's important, but really getting to know each other. And I'll go back, Kareem. You remember in 2000, the city of the Saginaw region was broken.
Mm-hmm.
We had racial issues. We had economic issues. We've lost 60-some thousand high-paying GM jobs. We were broken. We had high crime. We had drugs. We had gangs. We were a mess. This is the year Tristar Trust began.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I came to town and to find out some tremendous business leaders, Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, were getting together, and they put something called together the Saginaw County Vision 2020.
Yep, I remember.
And I said, well, what's this all about? And to make this a little quicker, is that it was a program to say, you know what, we need to get along better, everyone. And they put together the Saginaw County Vision 2020 to help improve the place where we work, live, and play. Now, you look back the last 20 years, where are we at? We have been transformed economically,
Absolutely,
racially. I believe we have made great progress there socially. But what's really at the heart of our issues, I believe, is the breakdown of the family unit. And that's where I think we begin. And this is where conscious capitalism comes in and why I'm a part of that. And so I'd love to dive deeper into how does conscious capitalism now impact families and lives. And yes, the racial issues that we have today. So,
you're not from Saginaw originally.
I am a lifelong
Okay.
Saginaw resident.
Okay. You used this phrasing. You came to town. I was like, "Well, you're not here. Thought you were from here."
Oh, that's a great point. I was working in Flint.
Okay.
I was working for Citizens Bank Corporation, heading up their wealth management at the time, and then had the opportunity to come along and start Tristar Trust Bank.
So we're going to talk about that in just a couple seconds. Gene, I'm so excited to have you here. We're going to get into Tristar Trust Bank, how this started, why you guys started, and then we're going to talk about conscious capitalism, because I think this is the way when businesses get a conscience and begin to do business based upon that conscience. We want you guys to stay tuned. We have more coming with more of United Shades of Gray. Stay tuned.
United Shades of Gray will continue on WSGW.
Those of you who are listening out there while we are talking, We are on a station break really quick. We're going to be right back with the second half of our conversation. And I think we were muted. If not, then you got some great nuggets of information in between. But we'll be back in just a couple seconds with more, the second half of United States of Gray.
You want me to leave it unmuted?
No, keep it muted. Go back. All right, for those of you who are watching via social media, if you have any questions or thoughts, comments, put them in the comment stream. Feel free to like, share, and tag this conversation. Thank you for your question. I'll get to your question as soon as we get a moment, and we'll go from there. So we're getting ready to get started right again.
You're listening to United Shades of Gray on WSGW.
This is your host, Kareem Bowen. We're back with more conversation, United States of Gray. I have with us in the studio, Gene Pickelman, CEO of Tristar Trust Bank. Gene, before the break, we were talking about your transition from the city of Flint, and you mentioned that you were coming back home. And in 2000, when we were trying to figure out what we were going to do with the city and how we were going to turn things around and bring people together, Tristar Trust Bank was formed. All right. So what was it so magical about 2000 that you guys decided to make the step, then pull the trigger on Tristar?
Kareem, that's such there's a long answer on that, but basically, I was invited to start Tristar Trust Bank with Larry Preston, who is a local attorney.
Love Larry.
And another guy by the name of Tim Clark. And we got together and we said, hey, how do we compete in this world and things of that nature? And it all got back down to what was our higher purpose. And what I learned in the banking industry and from my previous employers was that, it's all about the relationship. If you serve them with genuine care, you're going to be successful. And by doing that, you build relationships. And I'll go back to that one, the Saginaw County Vision 2020. Mm-hmm. What was the first thing we did to help transform Saginaw from where it was? We had a number of task force, but one of the task force that I worked on was a task force called the 1,000 Leaders Initiative. And many people may have known about that, but it was a program run by Brian Molitor, who's a international consultant. He put together a program whereby we put 25 to 35 people in a class. And what we did is we learned about our personal relationship. We built our personal relationship over a 3-day period of time. We all came away from that much different. But we put 1,000 people through that. And that's why I believe we were able to move forward in so many facets in transforming our communities, because we started building our relationships. Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, education, government, private sector, pastoral community, you name it. Every class was so diversified. You know what? We got to know each other. You know what? We had the same needs. You know what? We developed some great relationships. And so it was, and that still rides through the fabric, I believe, in Saginaw, why Saginaw is so special. But to get back to your question on Tristar, Larry and I and Tim, we started our business from ground zero. And what was nice is that we didn't have any of this corporate bureaucracy. We could go about doing it ourselves. And we had a great board of director who understood community. The Dick Garbers, the Mark Flagenheimers, right, and the Shaheens, and just a number of wonderful people who said, you know what, we're going to provide great service, total objectivity. We are going to do things what we say we're going to do. And we want to do a thorough job, and we are able to attract some tremendous talent. And today, from ground zero, we're managing over $2 billion.
Wow. That's amazing. Now, I've talked with Larry about it, and he shared that same story with some of our students out of SVSU. We were doing faith and success, and he came out and he was sharing the story, and he talked about some of the pitfalls and some of the scary moments. And so that's really cool that you guys are able to do something of this nature. When you begin to look at what you're doing, and for someone that's listening in and they don't really know who Tristar Trust Bank is, they have no clue what you guys do. You're not a standard bank. You guys are wealth management, wealth planning. Why don't you share a little bit about what your niche is, so that we can begin, so that someone knows if they're listening in what to expect from you guys?
Well, you put a pretty good description on us. We're a wealth management firm. We're a trust bank. We're organized as a bank. So we had to go out and raise capital. We had to do a number of things that state requires for a banking institution. But what we do at the end of the day is that we help people prepare their financial plans, and we help them achieve it. And that's the value proposition that we do. And we do it with total objectivity, high level of planning, investment objective process that really returns good performance. But at the end of the day, it's building those relationships. We retain 99% of our clients.
That's good.
And so if you do business with us, there's a great chance, 99% chance, you're going to have a long-term relationship. But we've been blessed by the people who have a heart to do that. And that's all driven by the 4 principles of conscious capitalism.
Okay, we're going to talk about those 4 principles of conscious capitalism. I want to get to, because I think that whenever you're talking about an organism, and you've talked a lot about relationships. So the way that you believe in doing business is based upon relationships. My philosophy on life is that if there's any issue that we have, we can change anything that we can sit down and have a conversation about. So our philosophies are very similar in that regard. So let's talk about, before we get to those 4 principles of conscious capitalism, I want to talk about the core values. I went to your site and I looked at where your core values were. And caring for our clients, community, and each other. Harmony, working together to provide a higher level of service. Integrity, being ethical, respectful, honest at all times. Objectivity, doing what is right for each client. Enthusiasm, being enthusiastic in what we do every day. Now, what I think about is so special about these is when I look at these particular core values, and these are the core values for Tristar Trust Bank. My thought in terms of how we handle issues of systemic racism, how we handle issues of bias, is that we take core principles and core values like you guys have here, and we apply them across the board. We simply do this for everyone, whether you're Hispanic, Latino, Mexican, African-American, Asian American, whatever the situation. If we begin to implement core values and we begin to teach ourselves, it's okay to see color, because I want you to see me. I think our diversity is something that is amazing and beautiful. But if we can begin to use the things that we say are core values that we govern our lives by, if we can use those consistently across the board without allowing our biases, which we have to be aware of, to come into play, then that is when we begin to change how the dynamics of our systems operate. So I want to thank you for that. So now let's talk about these 4 core principles of conscious capitalism. Before we get started, why don't you share what is conscious capitalism, and why do you think it's so important for the Michigan Bay region to become a part of those business owners, entrepreneurs, and particularly to become a part of this new movement that we're hearing about called conscious capitalism?
Conscious capitalism is a movement that started by a guy by the name of John Mackey and a few other well-known business leaders throughout the nation. And I got a hold of it in 2013. A friend of mine shared a paper that John Mackey wrote, and it described these 4 tenets. He goes, I think your company lives by these 4 principles. And so as I read, it was a 19-page paper, like I had time to read 19. Anyway.
He who reads leads, Gene. You gotta keep reading.
That's right. So But as I read it, I just got engrossed in it, and I tried to move this this thought process, this movement of conscious capitalism, which is the focus of conscious capitalism is to elevate humanity through business. It's what we do every day.
To elevate humanity through business.
Correct.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, because we believe business is good because it creates value. It's ethical because it's a voluntary exchange. It's noble because you can raise the level of existence for people. And it's heroic because you can literally lift people out of poverty and bring prosperity to so many people. And so when you think about that, and I heard that there's a movement, I thought this is something that I think everybody might want to know about. And get this, if you follow those 4 tenets and apply those 4 tenets, your business will outperform S&P 500 companies by 14-1. Good to great companies, 6-1. So,
wow.
Okay. So is there a financial incentive?
I'm sorry about that. It's near that lunchtime. I think my stomach is saying, feed me, but go ahead. So those of you who are listening, I apologize out there. I skipped breakfast this morning. Never skip breakfast, kids. Always eat your breakfast. But go ahead. Give us those 4 principles again. For those who are listening, what are those 4 principles again?
Okay. The 4 principles are this. It starts with, what is your higher purpose? This is not necessarily what you do. This is why you do it. And so what's your higher purpose? And Tristar's higher purpose is to create caring, genuine relationships. Why? To strengthen families. Why? To transform community. When that is the first tenet of conscious capitalism. When you bring together a higher purpose for serving others, the millennials and so forth, they want meaning.
Yes.
They do not want just a function. They want to belong to something.
What value am I bringing to this company?
That's right. And
absolutely.
And the higher purpose unifies everyone. So be it a community, be it an organization, be it a nonprofit, be it business, be it whatever organization you're part of. Why are you here? And so John Mackey and Raj Sisodia did studies upon studies. And when people have this higher purpose identified and then begin to bring it down through the organization, this is why we come to work every day, to build caring relationships, to strengthen families, to transform community. Everybody gets that. Oh, by the way, we do wealth management. We do financial planning, estate planning, retirement planning, tax planning, investment planning. But we do it to focus in on what your particular needs are and so forth. So that's the first one. The second.
So the first one is, what is your higher purpose? For those who have ever listened to me, I always ask the question when I'm talking with corporate leaders who are doing one-on-one coaching, what is your why in life? Purpose should be the thing that governs you. I always say that passion is the fire of life. It is the stuff that moves the vehicle of purpose. It is the fuel that moves the vehicle of purpose. We should do everything in life based upon purpose. So number one is our higher purpose. What's number 2?
Number 2, stakeholder integration or orientation. When you integrate your stakeholders, now who are your stakeholders? It's anyone who touches your business. It's the owners. It's your clients. It's your employees. It's your strategic alliances. It is your community. And so the rule is there's never a trade-off. This is what I have found probably one of the biggest aspects that I've come to learn how to do better is when you're looking to achieve your higher purpose and your mission, you have to leverage all of your stakeholders. So you don't make a decision that's really good for your clients, but it's unbearable for your employees, or it's really good for the shareholders, but it's not good for the community, it's not good for someone else. If you search hard enough, you will always find an answer.
We don't have to compromise, because in compromise, someone loses. but we can collaborate to come up with an answer that would allow everyone to win. I got that from your guy, Brian Mahler. You were talking about how he came
Build consensus.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
He's one of my, I call him my big brother. He's one of my mentors. And so Brian is a great trainer, but that was one of the first things I've learned. We often think in life that, we want to get the best, we got to get the edge. And in order for me to win, someone has to lose. And so the idea or the concept that you're talking about here about orientating these stakeholders is to make sure that we find a way that they are a part of this process and everyone has the ability to win. It's collaborating to bring the best parts of ourselves forward.
Win.
Absolutely. All right. So we got higher purpose, orientation of our stakeholders. What's next?
Culture.
Okay.
This is all about.
I want you to define culture. Before we talk about culture, why don't you define your understanding of what culture is?
Culture is the environment that you work in, that you have a place to learn, to grow, and to develop. It's about showing the people that are working for you that they are just not a function, but they're a person. You need to show that higher purpose of caring, building caring, genuine relationships. It's really practiced in our organization. 80% of people that work say that their boss does not care about them. That's incredible. and the statistics are there. And when you think about it, you can't grow in that type of environment. When you get 25% of employees are engaged.
That's real. That's serious.
Yeah. 25% of the people that are engaged in their work, that means 75% are disengaged. Okay. So you spend most of your working day, 40 hours a week in a business and you're disengaged. Now you go home. How effective of a parent, how effective of a spouse can you be? And you talk about work stress. Work stress is one of the number one factors in serious healthcare issues. So if we're concerned about our healthcare costs, maybe we take a focus of what's going on internally within our businesses.
So I think that, it's funny because I had an opportunity to go out and it was Google. I've been both to Microsoft's headquarters and to Google headquarters. And both of them, the culture that they're creating in terms of their work and their work culture is absolutely amazing. They make it comfortable for the workers. I mean, even just the desk, you're not sitting around a stuffy desk all the time, but how they build that culture is so important. And people are staying there. They're staying there for the long haul. One of the things that I often say, and it's been said a million times, that people don't leave jobs, they leave people. And so if I'm in a position or I'm in a culture and environment, and this is what I think, I'm going to say something after that I think is very important. If I'm in a place that I don't feel valued, I don't feel that I'm a part of what's going on, I am simply carrying out a function, I'm not going to stay there long. And so you're saying that we've got to then create a culture that not just ministers to an individual's ability to do their job, but accepts the individual and the things that they value and what they enjoy and
accept them for who they are.
Okay.
Accept them for who they are. And they may think differently, dress differently or whatever, but you need to care for those people as long as they got the competencies to do the job and they can perform and things of this nature. It's not about giving them more. It's more of a relational thing. In fact, I would say the last 4 or 5 of our hires, number one reason they came to work for Tristar. It's culture. Okay, now this is going to take us back because I wanted to talk. We were talking about dismantling the situations of the areas of racism in our systems. Now, this is one of the key areas, and this is completely a different direction the conversation is taking us here. When I think about culture, the key thing that comes to mind is that culture varies with people. How do you build a culture now that acknowledges that, especially in the world of finance and banking, if I'm coming into this space, I'm already recognizing that I'm going to have fewer candidates, POCs, and that people of color
coming into this environment, how do I create a culture that when an African American comes into this system, he feels that he is a part of this culture and that he is valued and that he is appreciated in a system when he is really, I mean, he may not really stand up to the 14% of the population that the nation is, or that we make up as a nation, coming into this particular area. How do you begin to create a culture that understands the differences that we all bring in, the biases that we bring in, but still able to be accepted and to build value and to relationship to create a long-standing partnership in terms of your employment?
Yeah.
How do we do that?
The fourth tenet.
Okay.
Conscious leadership.
Look at this, right on cue.
You are.
Gene, my man, high five on that one. All right.
No, you're the one who's setting this up. And you're doing beautiful. You have to get people. Everything rises and falls, as John Maxwell will say, on leadership. Okay. See a successful organization, you look at the leadership, it's there. And that's so true with running a conscious company. You have to get people who buy into the higher purpose, and they're going to be the cheerleaders. They're going to be the ones that go out and continue to talk with it. We have to have these private conversations like we're having right now. Instead of just knowing Sally works for you, do you know Sally's husband's name? Do you know their kids? Do you know their dog? Did you know that their mom's suffering from cancer, or their boy has is special needs? I mean, and this is something I've learned over time. I was with a bigger organization, and being more aware of these conscious principles, I've really had to change intentionally my discussions. Sometimes I could walk right through the hallway, and people would say hi. I'd say hi, and how cold is that?
And they shudder because the big boss is coming down the hallway.
Exactly. And so, but I do. I try to get around, and I try to visit, take employees to lunches and things of that nature. But it's hard work. You are on stage every day, every moment, every conversation. What you say, it depends on how it's going to be interpreted. And so, but you have to develop leaders to the point where they truly understand what we're trying to accomplish. And I'll go back to that higher purpose. First question is, how's the relationship? What's going on there? Do we understand all the facts? Is there something we're missing, and things of that nature? And so that's what drives through the organization. But this is really cool, is when you get the conscious leaders working together, they mobilize the forces. And I'll tell you, there's nothing you can't accomplish. And it goes right back to the community as well.
I want to ask you a question. I'm gonna. Have you ever heard the term woke?
Yes.
Okay. Not just like I woke up this morning, but
yeah.
Are you woke? Okay.
I do.
All right. We're gonna put some urban terminology to this. And I want to say that because many times we'll hear terminology that we don't understand, and this is talking about understanding an acculturation. So I brought the term, woke. And for those of you who are listening, like, yeah, I woke up this morning. What this means with this term, it's an urban piece of vernacular that simply means that you are aware of the times. You're aware of what's going on. Your eyes are enlightened to the situations that are occurring. Now, I say this because I want to thank you for, first of all, you're acknowledging at the beginning of this, the segment, the beginning of the interview, that racism exists. You are what I would consider woke to our current situation. So that's good. You talked about that last principle being conscious leadership. When we think about conscious leadership and we look at where we are today, I have never in my lifetime, and I'm still a young spring chicken, so that doesn't mean that's very old. I've never in my lifetime seen a time in which we have been as polarized as we are. What do we need to do to begin to mend this racial divide that we're seeing in our country, in your eyes, as a conscious leader?
At the end of the day, again, you have to determine what's your foundation. Me, it's God. That's my foundation. There's a higher power that I want to please. And what would he do? What would he have me do? And so that is the fundamental thing that is so important to me is, okay, in order to make a difference in other people's lives, he says, love one another.
It's the golden rule.
Yeah. Love God and love others. And I mean, that is when we do that, we need to humble ourselves. We need to forgive each other, even when we're not going to get anything back.
Right.
People treat you bad, you just need to forgive them. And again, who am I trying to please? God. I'm not trying to please anybody. I really don't care what anybody else says. If I can please the audience of one, I may be fine. So,
Gene, I think that is such a powerful way to do this. I think that when we have these conversations, it always goes back to recognizing humanity and that we are all God's children. I want to thank you for your time and attention on today. And those of you who are listening, tune in next week as we continue this conversation of race in America, dismantling systemic racism. Tune in next week. Thank you for tuning in. Take care of yourselves and each other. Grace and peace. Hey guys, we want to thank you guys for tuning into this conversation on today. I want to thank Gene Pickelman from Tristar Trust Bank for being here with us on today. Gene is one of those individuals who is conscious. He's a conscious leader who is concerned about making change. And you don't just hear it in his words, but you actually feel it in his presence. So Gene, thank you for tuning in, and just give a shout out. We're signing off on our social media stream here.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Kareem. I hope the conversation was fruitful for everyone.
Absolutely. Thank you guys. Take care and see you guys next week.